Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharyas Tathas A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Mahadev Sabhadra Ki, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ji Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Agoda Premanandi. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glorious to Shri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivasesha Sanyavadi Pastachari Shatari. Hare Krishna. Well, again, Madhava Prabhu. Good to see. How long are you here for?
A month.
A month?
Last week I flew in from Russia.
Yeah.
Going back to Russia.
Going back to Moscow? Oh, you don't stay in Moscow, do you? You don't stay in Moscow. You stay somewhere else.
I was 20 years in Moscow, and then we moved to Siberia,
Novosibirsk.
We got 2 temples there.
Yeah. They invited me there this year, but
please.
Well, I kind of had to decline because I'm too busy. But what to do? And plus, probably end up in the box. They'll probably lock me up in the box and send me home. They just did that to Indra Maharaj.
Yeah, but that's I called Moscow. That's an unusual situation. That's not going to happen to everybody.
No,
I don't know what the details
it happened to Prabhu Vishnu. It happened to Bhakti Vikash also.
Don't be afraid of coming.
Oh, I'm not afraid of coming. Don't worry about that. Time is the element. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 11, text number 18, is that correct? Text 18. The title of the chapter is Swayambhuva Manu Advises Dhruva Maharaj. So, I think you have it on this electronic screen, isn't it? Great, wonderful. Saha kalu idam bhagavan kala shaktya gunapravahena vibhakta viryaha karoti akarta eva nihanti ahanta cheshta vibhumnaha kalu durvibhavya sakalvidang bhagavan kala shaktya guna pravahena vibhakta viryaha karotya kartaiva nihantya kanhanta chesta vibhumna kalu durvibhavya Sakavidang Bhagavan Kala Shaktya Guna Pravahena Vibhakta Viryaha Karotya Kartaiva Nihantya Hanta Cheshta vibhumna kalu durvibhavya. Sakal vidang bhagavan kala shaktya. Guna pravahena vibhakta viryaha. Karotya kartaiva nihantya hanta. Cheshta vibhumnak kalu durvibhavya. Sakal vidang bhagavan kala shaktya. Guna pravahena vibhakta viryaha. Karotya taiva nihantya hanta. Cheshta vibhumna kalu durvibhavya. Sakal vidang bhagavan kala shaktya. Na pravahena vibhakta viryaha. Karotya taiva nihantya hanta. Cheshta vibhumna kalu durvibhavya. Sakal vidang bhagavan kala shaktya. Guna pravahena vibhakta viryaha. Karotya kartaiva nihantya hanta. Cheshta vibhumna kalu durvibhavya. Saha, the, kalu, however, idam, this universe, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, kala, of time, shaktya, by the force, guna pravahena, by the interaction of the modes of nature, vibhakta, divided, viryaha, whose potencies, karoti, acts upon, akarta, the non-doer, eva, although, nahanti, kills, ahanta, non-killer, cheshta, the energy, vibhumnaha, of the Lord, kalu, certainly, durvibhavya, inconceivable. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by His inconceivable supreme energy, time, causes the interaction of the three modes of material nature. And thus, varieties of energy become manifest. It appears that He is acting, but He is not the actor. He is killing, but He is not the killer. Thus it is understood that only by His inconceivable power is everything happening. Purport. The word durvibhavya means inconceivable by our tiny brain. And vibhakta viryaha means divided in varieties of potencies. This is the right explanation of the display of creative energies in the material world. We can better understand the mercy of God by an example. A government state is always supposed to be merciful, but sometimes, in order to keep law and order, the government employs its police force. And thus punishment is meted out to the rebellious citizens. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always merciful and full of transcendental qualities. But certain individual souls have forgotten their relationship with Krishna and have endeavored to lord it over material nature. As a result of their endeavor, they are involved in varieties of material interaction. It is incorrect to argue, however, that because energy issues from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the actor. In the previous verse, the word nimitta matram indicates that the Supreme Lord is completely aloof from the action and reaction of this material world. How is everything being done? The word inconceivable has been used. It is not within the power of one's small brain to comprehend, unless one accepts the inconceivable power and energy of the Lord. One cannot make any progress. That's quite a statement, isn't it? Unless one accepts the inconceivable power and energy of the Lord, one cannot make any progress. That's a statement of Jiva Goswami in the Sandarbhas. Unless we accept the inconceivable power of the Lord, we'll never understand. You can't understand him. He doesn't reveal himself. As Prabhupada is saying here, with our tiny brains, what can we understand about these inconceivabilities of, here we're just hearing of, you could say, interaction with the material energy and creating various forms and actions and reactions within this world by the influence or by the power of time. So many effects are there, and so many interactions take place in the form of not just creative ones, but experiential ones. The living entity's fear, the living entity's happiness and distress, their emotional reactions when faced with various objective combinations before them, either that of people or objects around us, which cause emotional reactions. These are all under the sway of time. And of course karma from the individual purpose or the individual person's point of view. The forces which act are certainly set up by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is always aloof from their action and reaction. Prabhupada mentions nimitta matram. Now that word is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. And perhaps some of you know in the Bhagavad Gita where that those words are mentioned. Do you remember? Nimitta matram bhavyasava sachin. And what does that refer to? Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. He's telling him to be what? Pardon? Be an instrument, Arjuna. Arjuna was thinking himself the doer. He was thinking, therefore, he was, in great anxiety about the effects of his doing, so to speak, thinking himself to be the cause, both of his actions Yes, it can be said the soul is one of the causes, but not the primary one. And also the reactions. Arjuna was seeing himself in the center, basically. So Krishna said, Nimittama, be an instrument. In the previous verse, it referred to the Lord being the remote doer. Not the direct, but the remote. Everything goes on by his will, but he doesn't have to do it, so to speak. And see where Prabhupada goes on. So like that, Arjuna was like instrument for the will of the Lord. Through Arjuna, Krishna's will was to be enacted. That's the nature of a devotee. A devotee doesn't think, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. A devotee feels himself the instrument of the Lord's will. He voluntarily takes that position, accepts that position to enact the Lord's will. In some ways, we're kind of, it's not necessarily such a good example, but we're acting on the stage or acting under the direction of the, whoever the director is, the one who is organizing the drama. The forces which act are certainly set up by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh, we read that. Where do we get to? The varieties of energies produced by the interaction of material nature produce the varieties of species of life and their resultant happinesses and unhappiness. How the Lord acts is nicely explained in the Vishnu Purana. Fire is situated in one place, while the heat and light produced by the fire act in many different ways. What different ways will or could we say, the heat and light act in different ways? Which gives some examples. Yes, Dinavanda. But that's one, definitely, as far as the experience from the, from personal experience at least. You could also apply that in terms of, you could take a knife as an example also, of course. It could be applied favorably or unfavorably. Give an example of favorable or unfavorable. Yes. A simple example, or a forest or whatever it may be. Heat is needed for the trees to grow, but it can also destroy the trees. We all need heat, but if there's too much heat, then we have a problem. Another example given is that the electric powerhouse is situated in one place, but by its energies, what happens? Similar example, the electric powerhouse disseminates the electricity to all the various units, places. So in regards to this example, you may get the electricity may charge of a refrigerator, isn't it? You get very nice cold refrigerator or an air conditioner or electric fan cooling down, but that same electricity, and there's a different type of transformation you could say through the various, I don't know much about it, electrical engineering, but through some kind of transformer of some kind or machinery, produces heat. The same electricity, isn't it? Or it does something like that, charges a machine, whatever. Charge your car, different things. Many different types of machinery move. The production is never identical with the original source of the energy. But the original source of energy, being the prime factor, is simultaneously one with and different from the product. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva, is the perfect way of understanding. What does that mean? Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Yes, thank you. Inconceivable, that's the word mentioned a few times here in this verse. Inconceivable. It means beyond our means to conceive. We can accept, not accept, but it's not within our power to conceive. If the Lord reveals it, so He may. But it's not within our power to conceive or to understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or His multiple energies. In this material world, the Lord incarnates in three forms as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, by which He takes charge of the three modes of material nature. By His incarnation of Brahma, He creates. As the incarnation of Vishnu, He maintains. And by His incarnation of Shiva, He also annihilates. But the original source of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, is always apart from these actions and reactions of material nature. It's a very big topic, and many angles could be taken. One could discuss the aspect of time and its effects on the energies of the Lord, upon the Pradhana, the Mahatattva, and the modes of nature, and so on, and the living entities within it. One could discuss how the Lord expands in various ways to enact the various creation, as mentioned here, expands. Potential expansion also in the form of Lord of Brahma, to give him the creative potency to create, or Shiva's a little different, but still the destructive potency. And as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, the maintenance potency. This is direct expansion of the Lord. But this is the Lord Himself in these various forms. Sometimes Prabhupada gives the example of a business magnate. A friend of mine many years ago, he lives in Minneapolis, but he was a World Bank advisor. He would go around the world advising. Quite an important role. Bankers in various ways. I don't think it was so much in the financial world, more in maybe in the marketing world and so on. I'm not sure, something like that. And he was one time in Zurich in Switzerland, and he was meeting with the head of one of the biggest banks in the world at his office there, and he was waiting for the meeting, and eventually he went in to the office of the manager. It was bigger than this room. It was a huge room. He had a miniature golf course inside his office. He just stopped. He had to wait to meet him because he was still having a round of golf in his office. He sat down, met for a little while, and in the course of talking, my friend, devotee, he's initiated, asked him, "It seems like you're not very busy." Yeah. I just have a meeting 1 hour a week on Monday morning with all of my men, leading men, and that's it for the week, basically. Unless there's some emergency, I have nothing much else to do. He just stays in his office and plays. Nothing can be absolutely comparable to the Lord. The Lord is always playing. He doesn't have to have a meeting even. He has his meetings, but they're all meetings for playing in the forest, or looking after the cows, or rendezvous with his, intimate associates, or, interacting with Mother Yasoda, and so on. But to manage the material universes, or all of the expansions, even the Vaikunthas, everything, he has his expansive, you could say, forms, whereas he himself is aloof from all of this. And even here we see Garbhodakshai Vishnu, in one sense, is aloof from the whole show, in one sense. Although we did read the other day in I can't remember what it was, one class we were giving, I think it was maybe yesterday or the day before, how the whole show is for the pleasure of the Lord. The whole material show is for the Lord's pleasure. Directly, indirectly, but we can understand. Well, it may be seen in the form of time as being some distant understanding there from our perspective to help us to come back to his lotus feet, to bring us back, or as Prabhupada says here, the same government may create a prison house for the errant souls. Not that necessarily they enjoy it exactly, but it has its purpose. It's supposed to be a reformative purpose. The original source. But I think what we'll do is we'll talk the little time we have. I don't know the time, it's behind the scaffolding there. What is the time? 9:35 or something? 8:30, yes. I can't see it properly. Pardon? 8:32 or something. So we have a little time. So I'm going to read something, if possible, in this regards. The inconceivable nature of Godhead, Achintya, Achintya Shakti. How he's unseen within this world, you could say. Sometimes Prabhupada would give the example even of a tree. A tree. We can see the tree, but can we see the source of the tree? What is the source of a tree? Seed. Or you might see the seed being reproduced on the branches, but you can't see the seed that's produced that tree. Famous example, which is given in the Upanishads, I think, maybe in the Mundaka Upanishad, I don't know, somewhere, of now maybe some other Purana or something, of Narada Muni. Prabhupada tells this story of when Narada Muni, he was traveling, as he normally does, throughout the Lord's creations. He has a mission. It's a very specific mission to, as an instrument of the Lord's will, to help others back to Godhead. So he was traveling. He came upon a Brahmin, very educated, qualified from the material point of view, Brahmana. And the Brahmana was very happy to receiving, respects Narada Muni, please accept my respects. And Narada dutifully offered his to the Brahmana. And the Brahmana asked him what was his business. He said, actually, he's passing by on his way to Vaikuntha. Haribol Ram Rao Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Haribol. See you. Hare Krishna. On his way to Vaikuntha. And, the Brahman was very curious. Going to see Lord Narayan? Yes, I've just got one question on my mind. Could you please ask the Lord one thing, just to confirm, I'm very qualified Brahmana and very learned and so on. And I'm sure this is my last life, but just confirm it, so that I'm confident. So, of course, my dear Brahmin. And then he happened to come across a cobbler, a simple cobbler who was very uneducated from the material point of view. But he was a devotee of Krishna. So when the cobbler saw Narada Muni, he became completely overwhelmed with emotional, you could say, love. How fortunate that Narada Muni had come to his abode. He felt himself causelessly fortunate, paying his full respects and praising Narada Muni. And the same thing, Narada Muni explained he was going to Vaikuntha. And the Brahmin, out of humility in one sense, but curiosity maybe, requested Narada Muni, please, could you possibly ask the Lord if ever I'll be qualified to ever become, an actual devotee. I'm so sinful, I'm so fallen. Will it ever be possible? Of course, my dear cobbler. So when Narada Muni went to Vaikuntha, then and met with Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan rather, he explained the situation that he'd met these two personalities, and they requested this of Lord Narayan. So Lord Narayan said, yes, yes, you can go back, you can tell the Brahmin that he will have many, many lifetimes in this material world. And you can tell the cobbler this is his last lifetime. Narada Muni was a little surprised. From the material point of view, you'd certainly have thought differently. So then, seeing Narada Muni a little surprised, Lord Narayan said, well, when they react to that answer, you can, or when they ask you what the Lord was doing, you can tell them I'm threading an elephant through the eye of a needle, and see their response. And Narada Muni was, wasn't quite sure what to make of it maybe, but he went back to the Earth planet after some time. And sure enough, he came across the Brahmin. The Brahmin was eager to see him. Oh, welcome back, oh great sage Narada. Please accept my respects. Please tell me, did you see Lord Narayan? Yes, I did. Oh, very good. And did he confirm my point? Oh, well, I asked him your question, and he gave his answer. Tell me, what was the answer? He said, I'm sorry, but you'll have to spend many lifetimes in this material world. So the Brahmin was shocked. He's not only shocked, but he became enraged and practically, at least verbally, attacked Narada. I don't believe a word you say. I don't believe you've been to Vaikuntha. This is all nonsense. How can this be possible? And practically speaking, he almost chased Narada Muni away. But Narada Muni could understand that this Brahmin was a little proud. Proud of his position, his knowledge, and so on. Certainly not acting as nimitta matra, that's for sure. But then he came across the cobbler, and he's wondering, well, what's going to be the reaction here? So then he mentioned it to the cobbler, when he asked him, did you see my Lord? He said, yes. And did you put my question to him? He said, yes. And what were the words of my Lord? Will it ever be possible for me to go back to Godhead? And he said, have no worries. The Lord said, in this lifetime you're going back to Godhead. The cobbler couldn't believe it. He was absolutely stunned. How is it possible? I'm so fallen. Oh, my Lord is amazing. Backtrack to the Brahmin. The Brahmin said, okay, if you've actually been to see Lord Narayan, tell me then, what was he doing? And when Narada Muni mentioned what the Lord said, that he's threading an elephant through the eye of a needle, then the Brahmin became outraged, shouting, nonsense, nonsense, this, you made this up, you've definitely not gone to see Lord Narayan. When the cobbler then heard that he was going back to God, he couldn't believe it practically. He said, never mind about that, I'm not qualified, just tell me please, tell me what is the Lord was doing, let me hear about the Lord. And then Narada Muni then began to explain how the Lord was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. Oh, my Lord is so wonderful. He's so wonderful. Narada Muni was surprised. He said, you really believe that? Of course, why not? Nothing is impossible for the Lord. And he said, just see, and he picked up a little acorn seed. And he said, this little seed, or banyan seed or something, just from this little seed, the Lord has placed, or within this seed is the potency to create a huge tree, this huge banyan tree, just in this little teeny seed. There's nothing difficult for the Lord. So that Narada Muni could understand. This devotee accepted this inconceivability of the Lord. If it was conceivable, as the Brahmin was trying to think, that means that we can think, that we can try to grasp or contain the Lord within our own mind, within our own ability, within our own knowledge. He's not limited. He's unlimited. If we think like that, that means basically we're thinking we're as good as or better than God. We have the same capacity of knowledge or potency as the Lord does. The devotee doesn't. He sees himself as that humble role, as this philosophy, as Prabhupada just mentioned, achintya abheda bheda tattva. Inconceivably one and different. Yes, we have qualities of similar nature, but in minute quantity. Never on the same level as the Lord. Even Brahma, Shiva, mentioned here, Vishnu, have the qualities, a greater degree, no doubt, than we do, but they're only a percentage, not the same as Lord Krishna himself, who contains all the qualities in full. They're manifest partially and only percentage-wise. The Lord is inconceivable to Atak Shri Krishna Namadina Bhavad Goendri. Sevan Mukha hi Jivados Svayameva Spurachita. With our material senses is also a verse found in the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami, and in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that with our material blunt senses we cannot possibly understand the transcendental nature of the personality of Godhead. Our senses are limited. There's a process of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Sevan Mukha hi Jivado. We use our tongue, beginning with the tongue, seva, devotional service, beginning with the tongue. And by that process, by purifying our consciousness, the Lord may reveal everything, whatever is required. He'll reveal that truth to us. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, when we look in the 10th chapter, let's look at the 10th chapter for a few moments. The opulence of the Absolute. There's a very famous verse in there, which is Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Pratipurvakam, where Krishna says to Arjuna that to show special mercy, well, there's the one before. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. That's those who accept that everything, aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam bhavatati, that everything comes from Krishna. Everything. Directly or remotely, but everything comes from Krishna, no matter what it is. For those who accept that and put Krishna in the center, then Krishna gives the understanding. It's not that we, on our own, can force our way back to Godhead, force our way out of the prison. You may do that, but that does not make one a good citizen or eligible to enter into the Vaikuntha, the spiritual realm, or may enter into the Brahman, maybe, but not the spiritual planets. One doesn't understand the Sat Chidananda, one may have some understanding of Sat, but the full nature of Godhead, the Sat Chidananda aspect, remains out of his purview unless one is engaged in devotional service of the Lord, accepts the position of the Supreme Lord above everything else. And then a couple of verses later, Arjuna, we can read the next one. Arjuna has accepted this nature of Godhead, and he says, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyas confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency. O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. So with material potency, how can we can't even understand the material energy or the effects of, we just heard, of time, or the workings of karma, or what to speak of consciousness. It's a spiritual, it comes from the spiritual plane, but these things are perplexing to the biggest brains, constantly changing their understanding of a minute portion of this material energy, and they're so proud and they bewilder people. I'm not sure if it's today or tomorrow in Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj's Tirobhav. Does anyone know? In New York? Is it tomorrow, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj's disappearance date? Either today or tomorrow, it depends on which part of the world we're in. It was today in Vrindavan. And I listened to one or two devotees speaking, Dinabandhu Prabhu. Oh, Prabhupada, so much light Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj because of his humility. Yes, he was a scientist, you could say for sure. He was qualified, some form of scientific word, Prabhupada called him Mr. Scientist. But his humility was that he just accepted. Srila Prabhupada, he was nimitta matra. He was an instrument for Srila Prabhupada's will, for his mission of preaching Krishna consciousness, of trying to enlighten the scientific world of the reality, the transcendental reality, not just the partially understood reality of this world, very fragmental. And he set the scene, or set the standard to address this misunderstanding that matters, that everything comes from material reactions. They're constantly changing that. Like sometimes they say it's a big bang. A big bang. Have we ever seen anything created from a big bang besides a big mess? There's an explosion every day. Explosions are going on. What's the result of an explosion? Does it create a whole, systematic arrangement? It destroys it. Bangs, big bangs, they destroy your eardrums also. It's not a creative force, it's a destructive force. Anyway, they just simply because they don't know, they don't want to accept God in their formula. Anyway, putting that aside. It's not possible for them to understand this nature of God because there's no humility. That wonderful song, what's it called? Protoplasmic Crud. You remember that song of Mangalananda? How he would talking about they have no humility. They claim so many things, but they have no humility whatsoever, the scientists. And without humility, it cannot be revealed. There's an interesting verse here from the Satashvatara Upanishad. This is in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 22 in the purport. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate natatshamascha vyadikascha drishyate parasya shakti vividaya shruyate sabhavaki jnana bala kriyacha. He, referring to the Supreme Lord, does not possess bodily form like that of an ordinary living entity. There is no difference between his body and his soul. He is absolute. All his senses are transcendental. Any one of his senses can perform the action of any other sense. Therefore, no one is greater than him or equal to him. His potencies are multifarious, and thus his deeds are automatically performed as a natural sequence. Following up on today's verse, it confirms the nature of today's verse, that they're automatically performed. They give the example, sometimes they give the example of a machine, I guess, that sometimes the machine is set into operation and it goes on automatically, but it's not in the same category. In a tiny way, we have that little aspect of God's potency to create such a thing, but it's very limited. How long does it last? And it's not independent. If we look in the Ishopanishad, it's still dependent on relative factors. Maybe some energy from electricity or from gas or petrol, or the creator has to come, or the engineer has to come to fix it or to keep it going. But in the beginning of the introduction, or not the introduction, but the invocation of the Ishopanishad, famous verse, Om Purnamadak Purnamidang Purnat Purnam Mudachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnamiva Vashishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself, because he is the complete whole. Even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. He doesn't have to interfere with it all. It goes on perfectly well. The complete whole, and this complete whole also contains, whatever it contains, everything is to be found also in its origins. Contains everything both within. The complete whole contains everything both within and beyond our experience. Otherwise it's not complete. So conceivable to some extent, but he's also inconceivable. Otherwise he's not complete. He's personal and he's impersonal. Everything's there in the Supreme Lord. All forms of incompleteness, Prabhupada says, are experienced due to the incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. So when we experience something incomplete, something imperfect or whatever, it's due to our imperfect understanding, our imperfect perception. So that principle of becoming Mukham Kur, no, what is that verse we just, Atak Shri Krishna Namadi. By beginning with the tongue, devotional service, Mukham, beginning with the tongue, our senses can become purified. By the Lord's grace, he reveals himself. If in this human form of life, of full consciousness, the living entity does not realize his completeness in relation to the complete whole, that means our spiritual relationship with the Supreme Whole, he loses the chance to realize his completeness and is again put into the evolutionary cycle by the law of nature. This is not our completeness. We may think we're complete in this human form of life to some extent, but this is not at all complete. It's just like a dress around the actual soul, and we're completely ignorant of our spiritual nature. Suffering in this material world repeatedly. Completeness is when we reestablish our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a direct relationship in one of the rasas. The hand of a body is a complete unit only as long as it is attached to the complete body. See, the example is given of the sun and the sun rays. The sun is indeed, which comes first? They both exist simultaneously. The living entity exists eternally, not exactly created. The body is created, so that the spark or the rays of the sun are emanating from the Lord, although the individual spark, once they come out, they may become covered. Sometimes that ray may become covered by some object and you get what we call darkness. Or in a fire, when a spark comes out of the fire and is disconnected from the fire, then the spark becomes extinguished, becomes dull and impotent. So we're kind of in that situation right now in the material world. We're like impotent, spiritually impotent. We're still something there. There's still consciousness in general is there, but it's very, very reduced. It's very withdrawn. But when coming in contact with the fire, so the whole process is to come in contact with the fire. And sometimes we hear ISKCON jargon, getting into the fire of Sankirtan, getting into the fire of devotional service. And that way, we become enlivened. We wake up, we start to realize our actual position as the eternal servant of the Lord's servants. And this is the process of waking up, or Again, it's understanding our completeness as spiritual beings, not just as sparks. Yeah, sometimes one devotee asked Prabhupada, what's his position? The spiritual world, Prabhupada said, you're a spark. You're a spark. Maybe the devotee was a little premature in asking the question. Where the spark sparkles in so many ways when in connection with the Supreme Lord. It's not just a spark on its own, as the Brahmajyoti concept is there, but in relationship with Krishna, the devotee sparks to bring pleasure to Krishna. The Sankirtan movement is the movement to bring pleasure to Krishna, to enter into that consciousness, that atmosphere where everything is for the pleasure of Krishna. And in that situation, as Krishna repeats to Arjuna several times, only by devotional service, if we look at the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the universal form right at the end of that chapter. And the Supreme Lord says, difficult to behold. Very difficult to behold this form, Krishna says. The form you are now seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. None of these means can I be seen as I am. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service, pure devotion, can I be understood as I am. Standing before you and can thus be seen directly, only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Prabhupada quotes in the verse again from Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Yasya Devi Prabhaktiyata Devi Tatago Tashyata Yatita Karta Prakashante Mahatmanaha. That only one who has unflinching faith or devotion for the Supreme Lord and is directed by the spiritual master in whom he has similar unflinching faith, only he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead by revelation. The Lord reveals himself. This is the nature. Pratyaksha Bhagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartamaviyam. And this is knowledge, this Vajravidya is transcendental knowledge is revealed by the Lord of our own identity, who we are. The Lord reveals it when we cooperate, when we follow his pure devotee of the Lord, follow their directions. The Lord then reveals himself to the one he chooses. I don't know that verse, I've forgotten. Maybe I've got it here. I don't know. I did see it this morning, but I don't know where it is. How the Lord only reveals himself to the one he chooses. You can't just, like the Brahmin, you can't just make him reveal himself. The Lord chooses, but he chooses according to the surrender. Yayatamam vipajyate. As they surrender unto me, I reveal or reward them accordingly. This is the process. Taking shelter of our spiritual master, taking shelter of the process of devotion, and mam chayogya vicharana, staying fixed, don't stop, unfailing in all circumstances. One can transcend these modes of nature and attain a platform of Brahman and Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. On that platform then real devotional service begins. We're working under the guidance of real devotional service as manifested by the pure devotees. So staying in that position unfailingly, then that will be revealed. It will naturally evolve in our hearts in time. Time is up, 9 o'clock. Any comments or questions? The inconceivable nature of Godhead. There are so many verses discussing that. Queen Kunti in the first canto, I believe, in her prayers also talks about that inconceivable nature of Godhead. Ishopanishad, look at the 5th verse, I think, the Ishopanishad, how the Lord walks and doesn't walk in all these various seeming contradictions. All contradictions are resolved or reconciled in the inconceivable nature of Godhead. Impossible to understand all these things with our puppy brains, Prabhupada would sometimes say. their limited senses. Any comments or questions? Hare Krishna, thank you all very much. Thank you for wonderful to be with God brothers and sisters and devotees of Prabhupada's family, with Ram Roy Prabhu, who is keeping the flame of Sankirtan burning every day here in New York. Example for the whole world. We're doing the same, or not on a very small scale now in Paris. Every day of the week, Harinam Sankirtan is going out with books. Small scale, but it's going on. In different parts of the city and in London. These three major cities, I don't know, I think pretty much every day in London, Sankirtan's going out there also. And Harinam Sankirtan going out every day. Paris, London, New York. Three major cities of the world in one, Western world, the temple's still in Sarcelle, yeah. Pardon? You saw me there? Yeah, we met there. Yeah, the temple's still there. And maybe one day, let's see when we're ready, Krishna will decide time is right to move. It's a really tiny little temple in one of the lowest areas of Paris, but anyway, what to do? We have a garden at least, which is quite an asset. Every day devotees go on the train into the city, 45 minutes, hour, but not much different than here in some ways. Into the heart of the city and chant the holy names. Sometimes they go to the marketplaces, distribute books, chant Hare Krishna, distribute prasadam whenever possible. Try to engage the congregation as much as we can. And wherever we go, we try to carry books with us. You never know who you meet. I think on the way here, and we didn't make much effort, but 6 books were distributed from where we were staying to here on the train. We went to a Rath Yatra a couple of weeks ago in Brighton, and the Sankirtan party in London, the book distributors went by train. They could have gone by van, but they decided to go by train. They distributed about 40 Gitas on the train on the way to Rath Yatra. Trains are really good for Sankirtan. Paris, the biggest book distribution's done on the metro, called Subway. Yes, people have sat there, and it's not very. In New York, I was just marveling at how austere the undergrounds are. The subways are so austere; they almost look like prison cells, almost. They're so old and a little dark, dingy. And the devotees going out on Harinam when the winter down in those subways, I mean, God, that's really sacrifice. They're a little bright and shiny in Europe. At least that much. Somehow or another, taking this message into the darkest regions, the heart of Kali, right into the heart of the battlefield. Well, for the Kali, it's a playground, but for the people, it's like a battlefield, and for the devotees, it's a transcendental battlefield. Okay, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanandi.